coordinator for the Witness Protection Program. He was honored with 17 NYPD citations for bravery and nominated as Cop of the Year. He also served as NYPD liaison for the FBI, Secret Service, and the Drug Enforcement Agency. He's a graduate of the NYPD Specialized Protective Service Training and served as a member of the Governor's Security Guard Advisory Council. And finally, he's been a consultant to a major international corporation, supplying safe locations for their diplomats and security for their office locations. So with that, let's please welcome Mr. Barbakoff.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York.
Never again.
Home of the Brooklyn Dodgers, birthplace of Murder Incorporated, and one of the best hot dogs in the country. I'm also president and founder of J. Richards Security since 1982. We have offices in New York and Florida, private investigation company. What else are retired detectives going to do? I can't cook. Okay, I recently moved to Florida a short time ago, so please bear with my Brooklynese accent. When I first arrived in Florida, I thought a snowbird was the bird of the state. The first time I went to Publix, I ordered a half-pound of turkey. The counterman gave me a slice. I said, that's not a half a pound. I didn't realize samples. I retired after close to 25 years with the NYPD, 17 years in the Detective Bureau, assigned to the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office. The District Attorney's Office in New York handles most major cases: homicides, organized crime, crimes against children, crimes against the elderly, and major scam investigations. While working in the DA's office, one of my assignments was protecting victims, the good people who had crimes committed against them, and then confidential informants, which the mobs call snitches and rats, and people that got caught committing crimes who were testifying against their partners in crime, hoping for a more lenient sentence. We would watch these people in safe houses, hotels, making sure they arrived in court and make sure they testified safely. Many hours were spent with these informants, and I learned a lot. Well, enough about me. I don't want to bore you with statistics or fancy diagrams. We know Florida leads all other states in scams and identity thefts. I want to read an article. Senator Susan Collins, Republican from Maine, has introduced legislation designed to improve the reporting of fraud and to teach seniors of exploitation. Collins, who chairs the Senate Special Committee on Aging, called financial fraud against older Americans a growing epidemic that costs seniors an estimated $2.9 billion annually. It's over 150,000 complaints alone. There's also a comment here from a woman whose grandmother was conned out of her life savings, okay? And she said, the person who committed these crimes stole my grandmother's financial security for the remaining years of her life. But they took more than money. She stole part of my grandma's person, the part that was trusting, confident, healthy, independent, and proud of herself. And yes, this woman did lose her home. Sad. That bothers me a great deal. I'm not here to sugarcoat anything, but to give the raw, hard facts that there are predators amongst us. The days of the unlocked doors, keys left in cars, Little House on the Prairie, or the Waltons, it's a thing of the past. Predators are out there. This is not a scare tactic. It's an alert on how to protect yourself and your family. Today I'd like to talk about my life experiences in the Bureau, the hours I spent with these predators, and how we can protect ourselves. Scammers have one statement: everyone can be scammed, young, old, doctors, lawyers, professionals, cops, seniors. Let me tell you about a conversation I had with a educated, courteous, likable, and well-dressed predator regarding scams. His favorite jingle was, and he was proud of this, "Crime doesn't pay, but the hours are good, and soon I'll be in your neighborhood." One Friday, we returned to the hotel after a day of testifying. We ordered pizza, and I let him have a beer. That's a no-no. He asked me, he said, "Rich, what comes to your mind when you hear the word senior citizens?" So I said, retirees, grandparents, mom and dads, veterans, people who worked hard all their lives and saved some money and want to enjoy the golden years. And I asked him the same question, "What do you think?" This was his reply: needy, lonely, greedy, naive, and wealthy. And then he showed me a picture of Santa Claus. I said, "What is that?" He said, "Well, when I worked in the boiler room," he said, "every time I had a senior on the phone," he said, "gifts were coming," okay? So I said, people have to be dumb to fall for these scams. He said to me, "We don't bother with dumb people. They don't have a lot of money. Seniors are easy to scam. Their emotional needs are closer to the surface. They talk freely about their love for their family, their unstable stock markets, and they worry about running out of money." He goes on to say that scams such as gold coins and phony oil deals and gas deals are good to use against seniors. I just want to bring out a recent scam that happened 2014, 2015, right here in Jupiter, Florida. It was a Ponzi scheme selling virtual concierge machines that bilked investors out of $81 million. They sold 22,500 contracts that were sold, and a lot of seniors were involved. They promised to place these machines in hotels, airports, hospitals, etc. Never happened. Early investors, like in most Ponzi schemes, make some money. These people, I said to the predator, I said, "Virtual concierge machines," I said, "that sounds like a great idea." He smiled. I said to him, "Don't you feel bad about taking a person's hard-earned savings?" He told me, "I have no regrets taking other people's hard-earned money. I feel it should be mine anyway. One thing we don't have is a conscience. I'm a genius on the telephone," he said to me. "Most scams are done on the phone." I asked him, "What's a good scam prospect?" He said to me, "People who don't ask a lot of questions. They answer them. They don't read the fine print. Expect the salesman to explain it to them." He said, "That's me. Don't think it's a scam, just see a way to make lots of money." I said, "Well, what's a poor prospect?" He said, "They ask a lot of questions, they want to think it over," and he said, "The thing that kills all my scams is they want to speak to their lawyer." He went on to mention that he was in and out of jail his whole life. When he was younger, he had what they call gravy days. I said, "Well, what's a gravy day?" He said, "Parking lots." I said, "Parking lots?" He said, "People leave all kinds of valuables in their autos. Computers, guns, attaché cases, store-bought goods, etc." He said, "The lots were good to me for a couple of $1,000s a week." So now I was curious. I checked for myself. I went into Garden Mall, and I walked up and down the parking lot. Thank God security didn't throw me out. But I counted 20 to 30 cars, and sure enough, one car had a computer, there was an attaché case sitting in another car, and there was a woman's purse in another car. So we had a point there. He told me about banks. Banks, you go into any bank, and the tellers count out the money to the customers. He said, "We just waited outside and followed them in their cars." He mentioned ATMs. He said, "The longer a person spends in an ATM, the more money he or she is getting." Finally, he said to me, "I became more sophisticated." In other words, he changed his career. He moved inside a boiler room. Let me explain what a boiler room is. It's 20 or 30 people in an office or in a warehouse trying to scam someone or somebody or anybody on the phone. The best scam they use in a boiler room is the telephone. A victim once told me he visited the scammer's office and there were degrees all over the wall. The scammer told me with the advent of printers and computers, they can produce more degrees than a thermometer. Okay, what I have here, I want to show you what you could get online. You could buy blank stock certificates. You could buy plain medical licenses. You could be a rocket scientist. You could be anything you want. Okay, you could even be a brain surgeon. All right. Fraud can happen to anyone. Give someone the right con, the right victim, the right set of circumstances, it's perfect recipe for a scam. All the cases I investigated, every complainant stated the same thing about con artists. Two words they always use, nice and caring. Now I want to mention a couple of cases that I dealt with in the past. We had an attorney we worked with since 1982 in the city, and he was so proud. He said he got a new client with a $10,000 retainer, and the new client gave him $5,000 in cash, and he couldn't come up with the extra $5,000. But he said, Rich, he said, I made out pretty good. He said, I got this new watch. It's worth about $25,000, $30,000. I said, my God, that's a beautiful watch. He said, yes, it's a Rolex, it's a Captain. I think it's about $25,000, $30,000. So I looked at the watch closer and it had diamonds on the bezel. I said, this is great. But when I noticed the spelling on the watch, it was spelled ROLEXX. It's a scam. They probably bought it in Chinatown for $65. So he wasn't too happy with that. On a sad note, I spoke to a vet who was taken, well, he and his family were taken for close to $800,000. This was an actual case. This was a gold coin case. And the veteran told me, he said, I can't believe it. The scammer told me he was in the same company I was in World War II. I said, the closer the predator came to the armed services was watching a World War II movie. First, the veteran invested $500 and the scammer gave him gold coins. And 10 days later, he came back to the veteran's house and gave him $750. The veteran said, my God, I made $250 quickly. So, that's the carry. He brought his family members in and they purchased gold certificates, okay? Every month, their investments went up. Similar to Bertie Madoff's scheme, amazing interest rates. The certificates looked very good. Finally, one of the investors needed some money to take out for his son's wedding, and the whole thing collapsed. Then he also mentioned to me a scam that he was very proud of. He called it steak, dinner, and gravy. And I said to him, explain the gravy part. He says, well, we supply the steak and the people's money supply us with gravy. I said, how does that work? I said, I heard of many legitimate dinners for companies selling life insurance, timeshares, retirement packages, all legitimate. He paused. He gave me a cold stare. I said, what's the problem? He said, don't use that word. I said, what word? He said, legitimate. I said, why? He said, it's offensive to me. And I apologized. Okay? The scammer told me they rented a hotel room and they gave a steak dinner. Now, we see this all the time in the papers, steak dinner, we're going to sell insurance, we're going to sell something. And most of them are honorable. But they gave a steak dinner to roughly 100 attendees. They became the United States Vacation Replenishment Corporation. Doesn't that sound good? They had beautiful pictures on the walls of Italy, Japan, Australia, Israel, Spain. They told the crowds that they were authorized by various hotels to fill vacant rooms at all these locations, 15, 20, 25-day vacations, all expenses paid. All you had to pay was a replenishment tax. Did anybody in this audience ever hear about a replenishment tax? There isn't any, okay? Of the 100 attendees that were there, 62 people paid the fee. The other 38 were lucky they got a free steak dinner. Now let's do the math. The rental of the ballroom was $2,000. The steak dinner for 100 was $2,500. The hiring of the hotel servers, waiters and waitresses and so forth cost them another $1,600. The cost to the predators was $6,100. The money they received from the guests was $61,699. Crime doesn't pay, but the hours are good. Now let's talk about prevention, protecting yourself and your family. Remember this, when you open your heart and you open your mind and you open your wallet, call your lawyer. Okay? Every home should have a shredder. I mean a cross-cut shredder, and shred everything personal. There are people that are called dumpster divers. They actually go into your garbage and they're hoping to find a social security number, a Medicare number, something to do with your banking account and so forth and so on. That's the birthplace of identity theft. At home, when you talk to people outside your door, keep the door closed, talk through the door, teach children the same. Don't leave personal papers laying around, whether it's your office or your home. Everybody's born with one thing. It's called the gift of fear. If your gut tells you something is wrong, it usually is. Suspicious person sitting by your car, don't go by your car. Stranger at your door, don't open it. Followed when driving home, go to a public location, gas station, police station, etc. Be prepared if the phone call doesn't sound right, hang up. Ask a lot of questions and read the paperwork and check with your attorney, and always take a 24-hour breather. Now these were red flags that the predator was nice enough to tell me how to avoid being scammed. I thought that was nice. He said to me, if someone says it's too good to be true, it's usually a scam. If they tell you the deal is only good for today, it's usually a scam. If they tell you the deal is strictly confidential, it's usually a scam. And if they tell you have someone on the inside, it's always a scam. The FBI has over 150 fraud cases, and they add to that weekly. Most of the common scams in Florida is the Nigerian letter. Some prince writes to you from Nigeria, I have $20 million, just help me with the taxes and I'll share it with you. I doubt it. The IRS false arrest, I want to mention this situation. This happened, believe it or not, to my home a couple of weeks ago. I came home and my wife said to me, I'm very upset. We got a call from the IRS. They got arrest warrants for us. I said, sounds good on a Friday. What's wrong with that? So sure enough, I said, give me the number, I'll call back. And I want to make sure I give the name correctly. The IRS agent that called my house, his name was Jack Konigsberg, okay? So I called, and the person that got on the phone sounded like he just came out of the Nigerian Secret Service. But so I said to him, I understand I owe you money. Yes, and if you don't pay, we're going to arrest your wife and yourself. I said, no problem. I said, who do I make the check out to? He said, you make it out to me. I said, okay, what's your name? He said, Jack, J-A-C-K. And I said, can you please spell your last name for the check? He got to the last letter, K, and he couldn't spell the rest, and he hung up. So remember, if it's too good to be true, it's definitely a scam. Now, I want to bring up certain things that are very obvious, which we have to be aware of. Don't buy the Hope Diamond, okay? And there's no such thing as a pill that's going to cure cancer in one day, okay? I bring this up because, guess what? Some people have bought them, all right? They had fake cancer drugs, fake salves. They just indicted a guy that was selling a black salve that supposedly was going to cure cancer. All scams. And we have to be careful to what's going on around there. Now, I want to cover another very important topic. It's about background checks. This day and age, it is vital to conduct background checks. People who are watching your parents, your children, and working for you should be checked out. Now, most people are honest, but we give keys to persons we hardly know. Recommendations. We trust our children to people we hardly know. Recommendations. We trust people to watch our parents we hardly know. Recommendations. Background checks are a must in this day and age. Recommendations are good, but do your due diligence and do your background checks. I'm just going to mention a couple of cases I worked on, and we had to do background checks for 12 employees in a sleepaway camp. When we arrived there, the boss gave us 10 time cards. I said to the boss, "You have 12 employees, you only gave me 10 time cards." He said, "Oh, don't worry about it. Uncle Phil and Uncle Bernie have been with my company from day one. They've been with me for 20 years. Well, we did a background check on Uncle Phil and Uncle Bernie, and they were known pedophiles in 3 states. Okay? Yes, known pedophile in 3 states. We told this to the boss, and his answer was this: "I can't believe it. They always volunteered to go to sleepaway camp. They always volunteered to stay late. And here's the best, and the kids loved them. True sign of a predator." We also did a background check on a resume just recently. The resume was flawless. Okay, it was for a big job as a COO. And on the application, on the resume, he put down that he was in Microsoft Executive School 2 years in Arizona. I called my friend at Microsoft. I said, "When did you open up a school in Arizona?" He said, "Have you been drinking?" I said, "No." He said, "We don't have a school in Arizona." What we found out is this person with this flawless resume had 2 arrests in Arizona, both for domestic assault. One for putting his girlfriend in the hospital, and another one, he knocked out a senior vice president at a meeting. You want this person working for you? And just it was 2 weeks ago, we got a call from a woman in Palm Beach that wanted her employees checked out. And we checked out her chauffeur, and she told us that kids love him. All he does is take the kids to school and pick them up. We did a background check on him, and believe it or not, he's working on his 3rd DUI. All right? The nanny that they had working for them had 24 aliases. In other words, 24 different names. Okay? She probably just threw a dart on the board to find out which name she was going to go by. I'll take your questions if you have them. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank my friends and family that attended. Thanks to Donna Hamilton and Bruce Franson. Thank you, this beautiful state. Stay safe, be alert. If you see something, say something, and thanks a lot. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. People are getting in, especially older women, to have a gun or another type of protection that isn't a gun?
A baseball bat, no, I'm only kidding, no, no. To have a gun today, all right, especially down in Florida, it's pretty easy to be a gun owner today. Having a gun is only part of the solution. You have to be trained, you have to know how to use it, you have to know when to use it, and you have to know when to safeguard it. I have no objection to people with guns. I have an objection to people that have guns and think it's like TV, in the gun this way, you shoot 14 people. It don't work that way. So guns, permits, trainings, I'm all agreement with. As far as women are concerned, they have guns that are light, that are concealable, can fit in your purse. There again, don't get a gun without getting the training. You can't make apple pie without apples. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, we came in late. I'm from New York City. You were in the police department in New York City?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to talk to you later. My question is, when you were just talking about hiring people, what about care.com? They do background checks. They did on me. I applied for a job on care.com. We have to protect seniors here. A lot of seniors are in Palm Beach County. My husband has to go to a nursing home, but sometimes I might have to hire him. I hire somebody to take care of him, to take him to the pool, to take him to the store. We need like an Uber driver. They have background checks. A friend of mine works for Uber, and they took him off the road after that raid. Everyone under 1 year was taken off the road. He's still not back on because he lived in Massachusetts, so I think some of these firms do background checks. Do you know anything about that?
Yes, I do,
Okay, thank
and
you.
local New Yorker, okay?
Yeah.
I know a lot about background checks, okay? Background checks are just two words that you have to make sure you do them properly. A lot of these companies today, they think that by doing a background check, they could Google a name or so forth and so on, and that's their due diligence. Doesn't work that way. My company, when we do a background check, we have 28 different captions. Their social security number, where they lived before, liens, levies, judgments, their criminal records, okay? So not everybody that does a background check does it properly. We're licensed to do it. Other companies around town are licensed to do it. Somebody's saying, don't worry about it, we do background checks. You have to make sure if they're doing it right. And you have to make sure that they're covering all the captions. And also, if they're doing a background check, which a lot of these companies, if they do a background check, like you mentioned, ma'am, that you're living in Florida. Now what happens if they're doing a background check and this person spent 3 years in California or in Arizona? They have to reach out and do it there also. So there are background checks that you pay $39 for, throwing your money in the trash. You want a background check, have it done by a licensed agency, make sure you get the report. If there's anything on the report that you want to question, or a licensed agency has to go further on a background check, they'll do it. As far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't let anybody in my house to watch my children, my parents, unfortunately they're not here, or to work for me without a proper background check. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, and that's what you do now?
Yes, ma'am.
Retirement?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's all I want to know. I
Thank
figured
you.
that, yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
I want to give a testimony about Rich's background checks. He's done 5 or 6 background checks in my business over the past several years. I just want to tell you how thorough he is. There was a couple of people we wanted to hire. They looked very good coming in. I said, check them out. So he calls me up one day and he says, Roy, I got to speak to you outside the office. We got to go out somewhere and talk. Just to tell you, he says, you owe me a ream of paper. So we go down, we meet, pulls out this pile of paper, I just went through it, and he told me, look, the person I wanted to hire was in several states. He had sheets, all kinds of scam activities, lawsuits. It just moved around. So if you just checked them out in Florida, you wouldn't have found this all out. So Richie went to the nth degree to check this person out in every state he was. And after I sat down with him, I certainly wouldn't hire him. Not only that, there was other people he checked out, and he gives me, not legal advice, but he'll tell me, look, if this person had a felony assault 10 years ago, which this person did, he was a little aggressive, and he had a fight with a police officer. He said, what if he hits one of your employees, and he assaults one of your employees? Now, what's the liability issue? This is what he brought up to me. Then it was another fellow, it was an engineer I was gonna hire. He had a DUI record. We go out to lunch, and he crashed his car up. Says, what if you send him out on a sales call and he hits somebody? Then they bring you into court, you're being sued, and they say, Dr. Spicer, did you know this person had a DUI record a mile long? Why did you hire him? So now the liability issues come in. So there's a lot more to what Richie does than just checking somebody out. So I just wanted to mention that he's very thorough, complete, and thank goodness. Now, after 5 people he checked out, I couldn't hire anybody. I gave him the 6th person. I said, unless this guy murdered somebody, or committed a bank robbery, I'm gonna hire him. So we got a very good employee.
His wife didn't talk to me, so, 'cause I knocked out 4 of her employees, but it worked out. So, yes, there are background checks, people tell you that, but that is just a couple of words. You have to find out what it is. Very important, because a lot of companies bypass the cost and they want to get by with a Google check, or they go on these sites that anybody could go on and we'll do a background check. Certain background checks don't cover the years, they'll cover a couple of years. We go back as far as 7 to 10 years. As far as criminal records, we have liaisons with police departments. We check all over the country. Very, very important factor that if you're going to do a background check, do it right. It might cost you a couple of bucks, but you know what? You'll sleep at night, and if anything does happen, because we all know that a good employee could go bad, but at least you did your due diligence, and if anything happens liability-wise, you tell them, you know what? I did a background check, they were perfect then, they went bad now, so that's it. Any other questions? Okay, thanks everybody. Oh, I'm sorry, yes ma'am.
I get a lot of emails and they say, 8 people are looking into your background and there were 12 negative reports, etc. I ignore it, but I mean, where do these emails come from?
If I could answer that, I'd probably be like Bill Gates. I don't have an answer. That comes from people that are sitting in offices, and all day long, all they have to do is email scams. Now let's take the scam I was talking about, the Nigerian letter. A friend of mine was with the FBI. He went undercover to Nigeria, reference to these scams. He said there's 30 people sitting in a small room, all on their computers, and all they want to do is hit 1/2 of 1% of the time, and they'll make a tremendous living. So, whatever you get on your email, whoever comes knocking at your door, if your gut tells you something's not right, just get rid of it. Don't open the door, speak through the door. And by the way, one other scam that's been happening in Florida is we want to check your water scam, okay? And what happens is 2 guys come and they have uniforms, wow. And they have IDs, wow. But guess what? Uniforms are stolen every day. ID cards are stolen every day. If somebody wants to come and they're from wherever they say, pick up the phone and make sure they come from that department. And another thing, which just happened in Wellington, a woman let a person check her water for chlorine and toxic chemicals. I don't know, you know what that is, Doc. I couldn't answer that. One went downstairs to the basement, the other went into a bedroom and ripped her off for her jewelry and about $6,000. So, like I say, if your gut feeling tells you something's not right, 98% of your time. Yesterday, it was on TV, They pickpocketed a 94-year-old woman in a department store who had, I think, $4 in cash on her. But she had a credit card, she had a motor vehicle, she had a social security card. That bothered her more, and I was proud to say that the people in blue got together and they bought her groceries, and she got her money back. Department stores, wherever you shop, ladies, gentlemen, look at your pocketbook. Make sure you know where your handbag is. Be wary of people that all of a sudden come up to you and start conversations. I know that sounds like, well, you know, we're in Florida, we're nice to everybody. Listen, let that gut feeling go off and make sure you're careful, because unfortunately, there are predators amongst us. Anybody else? Yes, yes, sir.
What do you do about these cases where you go into a gas station and you get the gas? And the scammer here, some way of scamming the pump.
Just pay cash.
Inside the
Well,
store, you don't do
Sir, let me answer that, okay? And that's been happening all over Florida, yes. There are people that come up with an ingenious idea, they put these dummy, what do you call it, scanners in, and you want to avoid that, what I do is I walk inside. Okay, I walk inside, I pay cash. Okay? Oh, as I mentioned before, okay? Crime doesn't pay, but the hours are good, and soon I'll be in your neighborhood. So, you know, you like that jingle. So I go inside, I pay cash. If you have to use your card, try to use it closer to the front door. Don't use anything on the sides. Okay? And another thing, there is no reason why strangers in this world want to make people in this audience millionaires. Doesn't happen that way. What they want is your money. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, folks. Stay safe.